Hello and welcome to episode 76 of the Boot Nerds podcast. JayMike, it's been a while. What's up?
It has been a while, my friend. I've been on holidays, and I do apologize. You know, man's got to do what a man's got to do, and take some time off. But we're back. I think I basically took my holiday in the worst possible time period of the month, where the brands have basically unloaded like a full season's worth of launches upon us while I've been gone. So we have a bit of catching up to do. Thankfully, most of it has launched relatively recently, so it's not going to be completely outdated. But man, there's so much stuff to talk about. But first of all, how you been, my man?
I'm good. Luckily, there's a bit of a travel situation across the world right now, and according to the internet, we are basically expected to be in a fight. So I was planning on flying to Denmark to fight you over contrasting opinions in the Phantom GT, but due to the current pandemic situation, that's not going to be happening. So you're lucky.
Which is probably my luck, yeah. I was gonna say, but that's the thing, because since we last spoke, you actually you got the Phantom GTs, you tried them, and basically we have never disagreed this much. It's at least according to the internet. I don't think we disagreed that much, but just on a couple of things, right?
Yeah. It's like a lot of things on the internet. People read titles and they hear 2 minutes of the video and they got all the information they need. And they formed their opinion from there. But yeah, I watched your video, you watched mine. I don't think that we disagreed as much as people think we did.
Probably not, no. And you know, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that and I think I've said this at some point in the podcast earlier as well, that this is not a revolution by any means. It's not a new big innovative thing. It's not big innovation, but it just takes elements from, takes current Nike technology and elements from boots that we've seen before, and it just puts it together in a cocktail that works really well. And I mean, yeah, I think what you were most like, where you disagreed more from what I said, I think people feel was the hype. And I totally get what you're saying. Like, there's a lot of hype around this boot, but the thing for me is, and tell me if you agree or not here, but the thing for me is that, yeah, there's been a lot of hype. And of course, Nike are going to try and sell the boots and tell all these stories about generative texture and blah, blah, blah. But for me, I'd rather have a boot that works really well, which I feel this does, than having something that has innovation for the sake of innovation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree exactly with what you said. Because I think that regardless, Nike could put out a complete dumpster of a football boot and there would still be hype around it because it's Nike. And whenever they release something new, there's hype. I don't have a problem with hype. I had a problem with the reason for the hype, which is the Nike spin of like, this is this new thing that we've never seen before. When in reality, it's a lot of elements that we've seen from Nike that have been recycled and kind of mashed together in one football boot. That was the angle of my review. And I think a lot of people, again, it's in like an 18 or a 19-minute review. It's very long, but I feel like the length was warranted because I went over a lot of the little details, and most people did not watch it. So it's funny because
it can also be too long,
right? It was long. I get it, but I mean, if you're going to spend $250, $275 on a pair of shoes, I feel like it's 19 minutes well spent. To have an idea of what you're actually buying. But it's funny because I think from the very start of doing YouTube, I have been labeled by certain YouTube commenters as a Nike fanboy. And I think it's been Nike more than any other brand. I know people like to get on us about Mizuno and stuff, but Nike, for whatever reason, when I have something nice to say about their products, people get on me. But in one video, I have somehow become a Nike hater. Even though if you watch that whole review and watch my conclusion, I said, I actually think it's a pretty good football boot. I would actually prefer it over the Vision and the Venom that it replaces. But for some reason, I ended up being a hater in that video because I explained, and I still stand by this. I think it's ridiculous. The whole thing about this boot is generative texturing. They generated a texture based on all of this science and whatever the hell they did to come to this final grip texture that allows for the best possible control in every situation. And then right in the part of your foot that's going to be making contact with the ball, probably more than anywhere else, they just wiped out that pattern and put a Nike swoosh. Like, think about that.
What I think the funniest part about all the hype around the generative texture, and I don't doubt for a second that Nike have spent a lot of time and research on this, but what I find funny is that this is basically what they did on the Phantom Vision 2 in a more exaggerated and different way with a different pattern. I mean, it's the same thing. But apparently I have been, according to the internet at least, I have been way too lenient and now have lost all credibility because I had the audacity to drive a car for a couple of seconds in my review. And I mean, look, I get it. You and I, me on Unisport and you on SR4U, we make very different reviews. We often go for a little bit more. We also want to make these slightly more entertaining videos. Not that yours are boring, but they're, it's a different approach, right? And that's why I feel you get different takes. For those who just want like the gist, 6 minutes, boom, ours are cool. But if they want to go like very, very deep, then I'd go watch yours as well. And that's the funny thing, because we basically agree on that this is a very good football boot, I think, right? It's a great football boot. It's not big innovation, but it's also not like they've done well. I think they should be proud of taking elements from other football boots, DNA from the Hypervenom Phantom ones, some of this texture that they got from the Vision 2s that worked extremely well. They've taken all that. They've basically it feels like they sat down, they said, okay, let's do a Mercurial that's not a Mercurial. And they made a Mercurial that is wider with a bit more texture and less lockdown.
Yeah. Again, I don't have any problem with what they've done. I think Nike's done so much innovation over the years that you're going to have certain ideas that just worked better than others as time has gone on. And I think that the marketing approach for the Phantom GT, instead of saying this is this brand new, never been done before thing, which is totally not the reality of what the football boot is, I think it would have been cool to say, hey, we did something really special in 2013 with the Hypervenom. And over the years and different iterations of boots we've come out with, we've learned a lot of things. And this is kind of like an amalgamation of all of the best features over several boots that have been a part of these different lines. And we came up with the Phantom GT. That's, I think, kind of cool. But the way that they presented it, I think that was my reasoning for the negativity in terms of them being overhyped.
I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, and I think that negativity is warranted. But then again, of course, what are they going to say? If they have genuinely spent 2 years, I don't know how long they spent on the GTs, but if they genuinely spent a long time researching, I mean, why not go out and tell? Should they just say, yo, we actually couldn't bother making a new shoe, or we haven't got any new cool features, so we just went back and, chopped up a Vision and used the Hypervenom Phantom because y'all wanted to buy that, so it's easy money for us. I don't think, of course, they didn't think like that, but they would never come out and use that as a story. So that's just a part of the whole machine that goes into motion when a new Nike boot launches.
Yeah.
Has it been overhyped? Sure. Is it a fantastic football boot? I genuinely think it is. And that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is in today's, when people like you and I, we make videos, if you don't, I feel it's better to actually go out and completely trash up a genuinely good pair of football boots than just go out and say, this new pair of football boots are really good. I like most of it. I do have a problem with this and that, but I like most of it. Then you're being labeled as a fanboy, or in my case, you lose all credibility. But just, and it might sound like I'm whining here, but I'm just generally curious. Do you feel that these days you kind of have to be mad at a boot, or is it more fashionable? Is more, of course, more credible? But do you get where I'm going? I'd rather just be, I'd rather just come out and say, I really like just like I would do to my friends, this is a great pair of football boots. It's a little bit too roomy for me, go down half a size. I know you don't agree, but for me, I would go down half a size to get the fit that I want. It does lack a little bit of lockdown. It's not high innovation, but it's just really good. I'd rather go out and say that because I think that's the reality than go out and invent some big problem just for the sake of apparently getting more credibility or getting, I don't know how to say it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. And I think it's funny how you can have, I think that while the conclusions of both of our reviews were very similar, at least I would make that argument, the way that the review was presented was, you could say mine was more of in a negative light. Yours was certainly in a more positive light, but we ended in the same spot.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the approach that I like to do with all of my reviews, because I think especially with top-end football boots, they tend to be overwhelmingly good in most areas.
That's the case these days.
But if you're really going to go, if you're going to spend 19 minutes kind of breaking down every single little element, yeah, you can pick out little things that could have been a little bit better. And that's what I try to do in all of my reviews. But I don't understand the concept of watching a review and then being upset when somebody has something negative or overly positive to say. It's ultimately an opinion, and I think that it's pretty clear when an opinion is unwarranted. Like if you're reviewing a Predator and you say, I don't like how they feel, they have too much grip, that's not an issue with the boot. That's just your personal preference that you don't like grip. It's not,
right.
You know what I'm saying? There's stuff like that I think is just complete nonsense. But I really feel like, especially with the negative spin that I had on my review, even though the conclusion wasn't negative, is it really just proves the power of Nike's marketing in that people really think that the newest product is always the best thing ever. And
sure.
I hate this idea of people like, I just bought the Phantom Venom and now this comes out. The Phantom Venom is still a good boot. It's arguably better than the Phantom GT in terms of like objective performance characteristics. I would at least make that argument.
Yeah, I would agree with you to some extent, yes.
But people just have this thing where it's like they're really brainwashed into like whatever Nike says.
And this is where the Phantom GT is such a brilliant boot, because it might not be all the latest and most wicked technology. And I'm sorry, Nike, but it's a nice football boot, but that's just the way it is, right? But I think they're onto something by if they sat down and said, look, the Mercurial sells extremely well. We gotta spread out our risk a little bit. What do we do? What worked back in the day? Hypervenom worked. What was that basically? Okay, it was relatively similar to the Mercurial, but it gave you this more free sensation. Okay, how do we make a football boot that gives you a more free sensation, but does the same thing that people love about the Mercurial? And this is the answer. So this to me is they give you a Mercurial that's not a Mercurial for people who don't want a Mercurial or have extremely wide feet, in which case this would be... Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's actually a brilliant move.
Yeah,
they wrap it in all this, generative texture, and that's cool. I'm just gonna see through it. But kudos to them, and I think this is a very, very smart move. Tell me if I'm in the wrong here and if I'm just bullshitting, but
I totally agree with you. I think as much as I guess we as consumers, or boot nerds, as we self-title ourselves, we like to see variation. I think it'd be cool to see something like a T90 come back. I think it'd be cool to see something like an OG Hypervenom come back.
Yes.
Like these are like variations that I think a lot of the enthusiast community would enjoy. However, the vast majority of consumers at this point in time are pretty proven to like one very specific type of football boot, and that is reflected in sales. Mercurial has been their top seller basically since it was created. And the one thing that so many consumers from Nike have been asking for is a wide-fitting variation of the Mercurial, and that is effectively what the Phantom GT is. Is it too similar to the Mercurial in a lot of ways? You can make that argument. You can. It's fair. Like the upper is similar in terms of touch on the ball, but they did things to vary the feel with the offset lacing system, with the generative texture. The sole plate and stud pattern is fairly close, but not exactly the same. It's different enough to where I think it justifies being its own thing. But to a boot enthusiast, they could see it as like, it's just Nike recycling the same ideas again.
Right. But then again, it comes this idea of just being mad at them for the sake of being mad. What I'm saying is that, okay, is it closer to being a Mercurial than the Phantom Vision and the Phantom Venom were? Yes. But will it be a football boot that appeals to more people? I think that answer is also yes. Yeah. And at the end of the day, isn't that what they're looking to do?
That's the goal. It's all about appeal. Don't be mad that they got rid of the Venom, and don't be mad that they got rid of the Vision when nobody bought it.
That's the thing, right? Yeah, I think so. So all this, it's just been like I've been thinking a lot about it since the GT released, and I also posted on Instagram. I was genuinely shocked at the 50-50. Some people love it, some people really seem to hate it, and I don't get it. But again, you know, it's fair that people have different opinions, but I like it. It's too wide. I'm so bummed that it's too wide for my foot, so I'm gonna stay with the Mercurial. But I really like what
it's really wide. If I was gonna make one point of criticism, like if I could change one thing on the boot, I really think that they got the shape maybe a little wrong.
Yeah,
like it's just it. Even on I was very surprised. I was expecting it to fit me really nice. I think you mentioned in your review that it's supposed to be the same last as the Hypervenom, the OG Hypervenom. It's way wider.
I agree, but they changed it. I looked at it's supposed to be the GF13, but it's a variation of the GF13 that they also use for the Hypervenom one. So it's the same. I don't quite understand it, but for me, that's also the one thing I would change. I would simply change the last to make it fit true to size, at least for me. And, you know, it doesn't even fit true to size for you, right? It's a quarter of a size long.
I found it to be like maybe a quarter size off.
And I think you're right, but I just got a better fit from going down the half size and getting a slightly more snug fit because I have a shallow foot compared to if I stayed true to size. And maybe that's the difference from you and me, is that you get punished a little bit more.
I think the reason why I said a quarter size and not a half size is because I think everybody, like, it's very unlikely that you're like exactly a 9 or exactly a 9.5. You're probably a little bit short of a 9 or a little bit over a 9. That's why pros, you see some custom boots and they get like a 9 3/4 or something like that.
Amazing.
They have that's cool.
So jealous,
right? So that's why I said I think that's what I felt like. It could very well be a half size. It's very difficult to say because again, even just the specific shape of your foot is going to determine how much extra volume is being filled in. But it's not even the base shape. I think there's almost just too much material to the upper. And it's hard to say.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. And I'm glad it's just not my foot. I know it's super, super narrow and all that stuff, but I'm glad it's not just me who's having that problem. So let's hope that in maybe a GT2 or something that comes next year that they're gonna optimize it. But it's got a lot of things going for it. And, you know, again, for wide-footed people, we also got to show them some love. So, there's that.
Oh, not a bad thing.
But come at me, bro. Yeah, come on. I can be all playful now until planes start going again, and then I'm gonna be more humble.
Can I just comment on the Unisport review? I was really into it, and then when you stepped out of the car with the leather jacket and the leather gloves, I was like, oh, this is a level of commitment that I was not expecting. I loved it. It was great.
And we shot this in the middle of the flipping night. It was like 4 a.m. in the morning, and there I'm standing in this empty parking garage with and they're not actually. I have a secret to share. They're women's gloves because they were the only ones I could find that fit my tiny hand. So
nice.
So yeah,
I was actually thinking that too. I'm like, where did these guys find an empty parking garage in the middle of the day? Explains it now.
No, man. It's in the middle of the night. That's why I look so trashed. I'm dead tired. That's also, you know, like playing. We played in the stadium at FC Nordsjælland, and we played there like super late at night. And I was tired, so I was frustrated, and I missed the goal a couple of times. And I was screaming, and everyone would tell me like, "Shh, people are sleeping," in the hotel next to the stadium. So, yeah. But it was fun to do. Never again.
Turned out good.
Okay, so that was the Phantom GT. We've already discussed it, but there goes another 15 minutes of talking about that. But before we jump into the next boot, next big release, I also just want to touch quickly on Mizuno doing every boot nerd out there a favor, bringing Christmas early with the Wave Cup Legends in Japan Blue. Absolutely lovely boot. I've already worn them a couple of times. As you can see, it's it's great. I love it.
Yeah, that's a football boot that every time I put it on my feet, I'm just like, it shocks me every time. I'm like, how is it possible that it could be this comfortable? It doesn't make sense.
It's so good, man. And speaking of comfort, they also released the Regular Cup, which I saw your video, and like me, you were surprised. Obviously, I've seen it, so I wasn't that surprised. But it's definitely a radical change from Mizuno, where they actually took a lot of inspiration from the Wave Cup Legends in terms of the pattern and the stitch pattern and, the overall look. And they completely went away from that rather modern-looking Regular 3 and then just focused on absolute utter softness and, that plush feeling. This is one of the comfiest things I've ever worn in my life, but damn, it's not the best looking.
Like for all the love that we give Mizuno, I don't like how this boot looks.
This is straight up.
And I think that colorway in particular is not the best. I think it could look better in other colors.
Right. Yeah,
the blue ones look way better in my opinion.
Yeah. But the thing is that it doesn't look. What would I rather play in? The Regular 3s or these? I'd probably stay with my Regular 3s. But in terms of like comfort, like straight up comfort, I'm struggling to think of another boot that is as plush and soft and comfortable. And these are padded like there's no tomorrow. And still get that same good fit Regular 3 out. So I mean, I'd have preferred if they'd stuck with the Regular 3s, but comfy as hell.
Yeah, it's a weird. I don't want to say a step backwards, but it's a lot more traditional than where they had been going up until this point with the Rebula line, which I guess was surprising. But you're right. I think from a comfort perspective, the synthetic leather through the midfoot's very soft. It's very pliable. It has a regular tongue, which we never see on football boots anymore, which is kind of refreshing a little bit, I have to be honest with you. And if you're a fan of just like leather boots with some extra padding, you're sick of boots that have no protection whatsoever, that's what that is.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
Question. You might want to come and slap me in the face after I give you this question, but the Rebula Cups or the Jumbo Legend 8s?
I would wear the Rebula Cup, I think.
So would I, but it's definitely closer than it was before. Rebula Cups are Copas.
I would still pick the Rebula Cup just because of the fit.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
It just
doesn't look.
People have been asking me, Rebula Cup or Rebula 3, Jay?
Oh, Rebula 3.
Rebula 3.
But it's also one of the best modern leather boots we've seen in the last 10 years.
Yeah. To me, that feels like, to somebody who's a boot enthusiast that's like kind of like excited about new tech and football boots, I would be disappointed with that. But I think
with the Rebula Cup,
yeah. But I think people that are like into Mizuno boots and just like purity and good leather and good comfort, like looks aside, the boot feels really good. Like,
let me put it this way: my go-to boot when I had to feel like next level comfortable was the Mercurial 2s. I'm not gonna wear the Mercurial 2s again after I got these.
Yeah,
because they're that good, but.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't agree with where they went, and I wish they would have gone another direction and still brought us that comfort. But now that they've done it, you got to give credit to them and say that it's comfortable, but it's also kind of ugly. So
yeah, but Jay, is that fair to say though? Is it? We both agree that the boot is really good, but just because it's ugly, we don't like it, or we don't like it as much as we would have.
No. It's more like the direction of, it's difficult because actually it's a really good football boot, but it's just. Yeah. It's just so different than what I had gotten.
It's a surprise direction for Mizuno to go into. What I said at the end of my review, if you made it through the whole 27 minutes or however long it was. I actually
did. I'm one of the viewers that watched the entire thing, yeah.
But I at the end I said, I think the issue with the Mizuno brand is like they had the Mercurial Neo line, which is definitely their most popular, and then they had this Rebula 3, which was very modern and kind of speed boot-esque in a lot of ways and not really that far off in terms of weight to the Neo. So what do you pick between the two? Now I feel like the Rebula Cup is really kind of a middle ground between the Mercurial and the Mercurial Neo. So in that regard, if you're going to have a 3-boot lineup, I think that there's 3 fairly distinctive boots now where the Rebula 3 and the Neo were kind of similar in terms of a lot of elements that they had. Not exactly, but
the thing is, yes, I'm mad at it for being ugly. And I know it's extremely, I can't call myself a proper boot nerd for being this, but the Rebula 3 was sexy. They finally made a really sexy modern leather boot. I mean, the Mercurial Neo has always been sexy, but you know what I mean? And they made a boot that to me was ready to really appeal to the broader market. This is not I mean, Mizuno aren't exactly helping themselves. Yes, it's a nerd's boot. But I know that Mizuno can be so much more. That's why I'm disappointed. Thank you for letting me clarify that.
Yeah, that's fair. It also does kind of look like if you took a leather boot and you accidentally like closed a waffle machine on it.
Yes, no.
A little bit. Not to pick on Mizuno, but I think it's if I called the Copas the Michelin Man boot, it's only fair that you do something like that for this one.
That's like the Michelin Man who fell on a metal grid or something.
Yeah,
but they're super comfortable. I mean, they're great football boots, but just like, let's see what comes after that. Then also, of course, out of nowhere, Adi decided that Nike isn't going to take all the spotlight right now, at least. So they released the next generation of the X, not called the X20, but the X Ghosted. And it looks like this.
Yeah, they look crazy. Like
Absolutely.
You posted that one. For those that don't follow Jay on Instagram, he posts. Look, I think I take some pretty good pictures from time to time, but Jay is top notch in terms of production quality of Instagram photos, I must say. And it's so like it's pretty crazy to have a mostly white boot look so technical. Like it's really cool what they've done with that. It doesn't look like a real product. I'm very curious to try them out, but it's cool.
Let me put it this way. I saw them and I thought, okay, that looks like a more sleek 19 plus. And then I got them in hand and I spoke to the guy, one of the guys who worked on it, Philip Hagel from Adi, a good guy, by the way. And he, I sat there with the boots in my hand and I asked him about the upper construction. And then, he told me what it was. And I'm like, okay, I think I understand. And then today I was looking at it again and it dawned on me how many elements there are to this, like this 3-layer sandwiched upper. We're not going to go too much into it. It's very technical, but it just stuns me how much material they've managed to cram into such a thin upper that is relatively translucent. And where the Mizuno boots didn't really look super sexy, these look damn.
Yeah, they look really cool in my opinion. But it's like so. I've made a couple posts saying how much they look or remind me of the F50 days. And they just really do. And I like the fact that they seem to be getting away from the textiles and the meshes and going back to something along the lines of a thin synthetic, which is good.
But that's the other thing. This is a plastic boot in essence. It is a plastic boot and of silicone, TPU, whatever they want to call it. It's a plastic, synthetic upper, like we would describe it. But it's also a very good plastic synthetic upper. It's super pliable, super soft, very thin. And that's what surprised me when I put the boot on. Obviously, the big thing, and no one's really talked about it, and I don't get it. I'm going to say the same thing in my review that drops this Saturday. For me, no one's really talked that much about the tooling. And the tooling is absolutely genius. It's probably the first time I'm going to say this, but I reckon this is as good as the tooling on the Mercurial.
It looks like it would be. I mean, it's granted similar in a lot of ways, at least in terms of the stud pattern.
But this toe lift, man, I guarantee you, the toe lift is genius. It's not like it's gonna, propel you forward or anything, but the feeling it gives you that when you step up, you're already like rolled forward a little bit. It means a lot when you're out there running. It's a little bit similar to what you got from the Vaporflies, the Nike running shoes. If anyone's tried those, I don't know if you tried them, but the feeling of that you're cheating just a little bit because you're getting just a little bit of help in getting in a position where it's easy to push off. It's super responsive, very boom. You can almost super snappy. Studs are great, very aggressive. It's stable. I really like it. Uppers, it's great. They talked about this. If you saw the Adi video, they talked about the vacuum fit, the sound that it makes when you put it. It does make that sound, and it's a tight fit. It's great. It's uncomfortable in a couple of places, but it feels like an F50. It feels like a laceless F50. A speed boot you have to live with cutting a few corners in terms of comfort. It's not going to be the regular cups. That's just the way it is, and it never will be. If you're looking for that, you shouldn't buy the Ghosted. But if you want that super minimal, raw, hardcore, I don't give a shit, I want to touch the ball, ping the ball, then this is fun.
But that's synthetic uppers, right? That's partially why brands have argued away from it, is that you don't necessarily get that step-in comfort. There is a little bit of break-in, a little bit of getting used to it, but I really feel like there hasn't been enough emphasis on that Carbitex insert and the potential for raising the forefoot slightly. Like they really, in all the marketing material, they did not emphasize that enough. It was kind of just like a hidden little sentence, and it's like, this changing the way that you stand in the boots, it makes a big difference, because that's something that you immediately feel as a different thing from other football boots. And in terms of like potential for having something that's like really like the next big thing, I'm excited to try these because of that potential that this particular element has. And it's really the first time we've seen carbon fiber and sole plates on a bunch of different football boots. Obviously, Nike, Puma did it with the V106 for the first time.
And V1 10s and 11s and stuff, yeah.
They did it a few times, right? But
yeah.
I would argue for the most part, carbon inserts in a lot of football boots have been for either added stiffness or just weight reduction. They've been more so for show than anything else. This is the first time we're seeing carbon fiber implemented as a true like performance element.
Exactly. And of course,
I think that's what's cool.
None of us should go out and believe that they say they make you run faster, because I'm not going to buy that. But it makes you feel like your body is being it's being prepared to get on your toes, and it helps you in getting there. And that is like that little thing is super, super nice, I reckon. And it's a nice boot, obviously, when you bend your foot, and you can also see when I do my review that the material crumbles up a little bit, and that's just what you get when you have a synthetic material. So it's not flawless, but it's a very, very good return to that F50 vibe. The spirit of F50 is back, which is funny because it's called Ghosted. Ha ha ha. But with this outsole, I think this is only the beginning to something where they can actually go in and really challenge the Mercurial, because this has potential. Because it's so different, but it feels hella fast and it works.
Yeah.
Snap.
Just to comment on, because I think it's hard to say that a technology will make you run faster or make you quicker, or accelerate better, whatever it may be. But when you change the shape of the outsole underneath your foot, that effectively changes your form in running. And form in anything that's like explosive is a big thing. Like changing the angle of your foot by a couple degrees does make a legitimate difference. So while I think it's going to be difficult to say that like these are going to make you 6% faster, or make up whatever number you want, the feeling and potential foot placement change that this will make actually can have a legitimate difference, right? And only you're going to know that because you're the only one feeling what's going on. But that feeling, I think, is pretty important.
I agree. And this is just a nicely constructed product, The fit in this thing, it's probably the best fitting laceless boot they've made, because it just, I don't know, maybe I'm just lucky that my foot shape matches this. I think if you have a wider foot, it's going to be it's not hard to get on. It sits super tight when you get it on. There's not much room to move in. The lockdown is the best they've done so far. The heel is really nice. Grabshire, I got a little bit of pressure points in the beginning, but that's the way it is. This is decent. Got a little bit of digging into the top of my tendon, but just got to break it in. I mean, it's a nice package, and it's just such a big improvement in terms of getting that speed fit compared to the 19 pluses. And then when you combine, obviously the upper package is not as nice, and the heel is not as minimal and good, and that's a shame. Why am I getting punished for choosing laces? Anyway, this is the one. I think that people should go for. It has the same tooling, an upper that's very close, a little bit more like the construction you got in the 99 gram, but still super, super soft, very thin. A lovely tongue piece that's actually better than in the plus, and it's just, get the laces. It's lockdown is definitely solid in these.
Yeah, it looks. I'm very excited to give these a go. Like that to me is the most exciting boot of this year so far.
Okay, big words.
Yeah.
Big words. See, the funny thing is that you can't buy the X Ghosted until you
September
can't get
1st.
the X Ghosted until September 1st. You can buy them right now. They went on sale beginning of this week at unisportstore.com. Shameless plug, but you won't get them. Now, what you can get is, of course, the Phantom GTs or the Mizuno boots or this, because they finally dropped what is now known as not the Puma Speed prototype. Let's not kid anyone. We knew it was called the Puma Ultra. We just couldn't tell anyone. But it's called the Puma Ultra 1.1, and it's I think this is the underdog boot of the year.
Yeah, for sure. Also, just so we don't come across as Adidas. Well, at least me. I don't want to come across as an Adidas fanboy, as I am currently a Nike hater. But I hate the ghosted part of the name in the X. Like, it's just so dumb. What is this? Oh, it's a ghosted 0.1. That is so dumb.
Yeah, that part is dumb. But I like them going back to the Predator Accelerator. Now it has the silo name, and then the model has a name instead of just being a number. I like that.
I just would have liked Ghost. I feel like ghosted is like negative. You never want to be ghosted. I don't know. But anyways. Puma, just to comment on their marketing.
It's funny that we get the Nike Phantom and then the Ghost, and this should have been called Spirit, and then we would have been completely.
Oh, that would have been excellent.
Anyway, but of course we knew it was called the Puma Ultra. We just couldn't tell you. It's the same boot.
You mean because they wrote Ultra on the side of a pre-release version, and we weren't supposed to know it was called the Puma Ultra?
Yeah, that was
unbelievable.
It is. But the thing is, with this football boot, it's still 200 euros. And you might say it's very close to what the Mercurial has to offer, and it is. It's a woven polyester upper. Every yarn is individually coated. It has these Kevlar, aramid fibers that are basically Kevlar, woven into the what's it called, the lateral side of the boot, the outside of the boot, to give you that, just like we saw on the one, basically give you that hard wall stability on the outside to prevent rollover. Then it had carbon fiber yarns all over the upper to give you the stability, basically doing what the high tenacity yarns in the Mercurial is doing. You have a lovely Evo knit-ish sock, and this Peeper tooling that is snappy. It has bladed chevron studs that work really well. It's a good tooling, and for 200 euros, it's a really, tell me if you agree or not on the fit, but it's a really roomy boot. There's a lot of volume inside of it because they took out all the foam, so it's a super thin upper, very soft and comfortable. But if you have wide feet and you want the Mercurial and you want to save $50, €50, this is the one. Like it's genuinely close to being on par in terms of lockdown and touch on the ball and feeling speedy with the Mercurial. The only reason I'm probably not going to wear that compared to the Mercurial is the fit. It's just a little bit too roomy for my foot. But if you have a normal to wide foot, this is the dream.
Yeah, it's really comfortable. I just wanted to address a few comments that I saw pretty frequently. A lot of people were asking or suggesting that the upper looks like it's like made out of denim or something like that. And I guess the way that it's woven does kind of look like a pair of jeans, especially in like the black pre-release color. It kind of looked like black denim.
Yeah, I get it.
It doesn't feel like that. It's much thinner. I think the best comparison I can make to describe that boot based on pre-existing boots is it feels like a combination of the Puma Future 5.1, the Nike Mercurial Vapor 13 Elite, and the X 19.1. If you took all those boots, threw them in a blender, you'd end up with the Puma Ultra to a point.
And I think that actually the jeans reference is not bad because it has that like uncoated. You don't feel any synthetic or any silicone, any plastic on top of this. So you just feel the yarn. That's because it's been individually coated, and it gives this very interesting, like raw textile sensation to it, which gives this very tactile feeling on the ball without being like the sticky, grippy way.
It's not slippery, because I think that's a concern a lot of people would have. It does not feel slippery on the ball at all. It's got a decent amount of grip. My one point of concern with this boot, which we talked about earlier, was the way they did the laces, how they're connected to the upper with these like little thin fibers. It's very cool.
The cool thing is that these are actually the polyester yarns that are running like so when you do a weave, you do a warp and a weft. either both ways. One is warp, one is weft. And these, I think, is part of the weft. So it's basically, instead of like wrapping under the warp, they just let them be exposed and run up. So it's actually a part of the upper. They're not loops that are stitched to the upper or anything. It's really cool, but as you said, durability, are they going to break? What happens if they break?
Yeah, like to me, it's one of those elements that it's very cool. I hate lace loops on an upper. Like I did not like the way they did that Adidas did the X 16.1 or 17.1.
Oh, yeah.
Like I just don't like, I think that's just a bad design. Like just, if you're going to make an one piece upper, I think the dual lace hole system that pretty much everyone has standardized at this point is probably the best. But if you were going to do some variation on lace loops, this is by far the best execution I've seen of that. I just think it's a little bit concerning long term, and it's too early to say. It's entirely possible that it's going to be a non-issue, but I don't know. It's a weird choice that I don't think was entirely necessary. Like I don't think that this benefits the performance of the boot in any way at all. It just looks cool.
I would have absolutely no credible answer to that because I don't know.
No, it's hard to say.
It doesn't feel bad, and the lockdown is good. So I mean, I don't have complaints. But you also mentioned like the foam in the upper, the foam liner. So
I can even see it from your end. You can actually see it on the outside of the boot. Once you've worn them a few times, you can see the foam liner on the inside. And if you fill in, I would say the boot has decent width to it. It's decent volume, but then the toe box is a little bit lower volume than everything else for the most part. So if you really fill in that front part of the boot, you can feel a little bit of pressure where that liner starts and stops, where you don't feel it across the rest of the foot. It's a very minor thing. It's a very nitpicky observation, but it is something that I noticed where if you were to compare it to a pair of Mercurials, the liner, like the upper feels like it's got the same amount of structure all the way around, where this feels like they've just added a little bit of structure to the forefoot.
See, I didn't notice that. And that's probably because I'm not filling out the boots entirely. So I don't put it too much pressure on the upper, but interesting. Do you think you just need to break it in to get rid of that?
No, I wouldn't even say it's uncomfortable. It's just something that I noticed because I'm a weirdo and I'm like thinking about the boots maybe a little bit too intensely. But I think as an overall option, it's the best. It's early to say this, but I think there's an argument that this is the best speed boot that Puma as a brand has ever produced.
Without question. For me, without question. Like it does all of the things that you want a modern speed boot to do. The fit is great. And they're 160 grams and they feel like they are super comfortable. In my opinion. Yeah. Like they're actually
I think that's a good point to make is like if you like the speed boot category, I think that you have three very solid options right now. If we take Puma Ultra, X Ghosted 0.1, because I feel like most people are going to be interested in the 0.1, and then the Vapor 13 Elite. You have three excellent options now, but they're all very different in terms of how they feel overall. And I think if comfort and width is something that's kind of important to you, then by all means, I think the Puma Ultra is going to be your best bet of that bunch.
I'll probably put it this, and I totally agree with you that the X Ghosted 0.1 is the most like barefoot raw thing you can get. Then the Mercurial is just that. It's the Mercurial. It's there in the middle. It's comfortable. It's close to the ball. There's texture. There's all that stuff. And then the Ultra does all that as well. There's texture. There's a slightly wider but also really comfortable fit. And it's €200.
Yeah, it's. I mean, look, 2020 has been year of the speed boot. Along with the year of a bunch of other things. And we're not even, again, not to bring Mizuno into every conversation, but we didn't even talk about the Neo 3 Beta in that conversation. Exactly. But then again, it's a great speed boot offering kind of a different angle with the leather upper, right? So you really have, like, as far as speed boot options go, like for a very long time, it's been like, do you want the X or do you want the Mercurial? And the Mercurial has, for the most part, been the best option for the last little while.
It has.
Now you have like four really, really solid boots to choose from, which
I'm genuinely going to put it this way. When I'm doing a top 5 best speed boots of 2020, I can't tell you right now which boot I'm going to put in which order. I'm probably going to end up with the Merc just because I'm conservative and boring and that's the safe choice. But you could make an argument that depending on what you want, each of these 4 boots could be the best speed boot on the market for you. I just pity New Balance and their Furon, which is actually a decent boot, but it's just nowhere near any of these.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but it's just like, step it up, man. It's just...
Yeah. Yeah, the bar has been set pretty high in that category
it has.
for sure.
What else should we discuss? Oh, yeah, I just wanted to bring up this colorway. A lot of people have hated on the GT again because it's apparently fancy. This is cool, man. No stripe. I love the stripe, but people don't like the stripe. So here it is, black chiller red. Get it.
Okay, let me just comment on. I did not like the GT graphics when I first saw them. I thought that's a weird looking boot, and I remember specifically texting you about it, and you were upset with me that I thought it was kind of ugly. But over the last 3 weeks of initially seeing it, I kind of like it now. It's really grown on me. But then this black and red colorway came out, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive based on what I can tell. I don't think they're that good.
Oh, come on.
I think it's like a very safe, it's just like a black boot with a red swoosh. Like, yeah, it doesn't look bad, but it's like, it's such an easy colorway.
I like the launch colorway better, the black and pink. I think it's outstanding. The white one, I think it looks a little chunky and it looks like, beard stubbling, but come on, decide what you like. So this is basically the text conversations.
Oh my God, that's the best description I've ever heard of a boot.
It's true, isn't it? It's true. Take a look at the white one.
You're right. You're 100% right. I get it.
But this is basically, these are the text conversations that Josh and I are having that, we talk about something and then he doesn't like something, I get upset with it.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
All right, let's just get to a couple questions.
Yeah,
before
we spent
a
lot of time. Yeah.
We spent a lot of time talking about this. Okay, this is not so much a question, but more so an observation. And if you guys do have any questions that you'd like us to answer in the next episode, leave them down below in the comment section. But this is a question from the last episode from Luca Natale. He says, "Hey, Rosh and JayMike, you guys have you guys ever noticed how Adi has either fooled themselves or fooled us all? The Pred is now back, the X is more like the F50 than ever, the Copa is basically the Adi Pure, and the Nemesis is the only one built on agility and changing direction / energy shifting, bit like the Nitro Charge, so that entire line refresh was basically a stunt." This is a proper boot nerd. He's reading between the lines.
Here are the keys to my kingdom. That is, if you've cracked the code. And I don't know if it's intentional, but I think Adi have definitely realized that, you know what, the old stuff actually worked. We just needed to make better products.
Yeah, it's a great
And with that said, maybe the Nemesis should go the way of the Nitro Charge and just, go bye-bye. But
yeah, we'll see what happens with that. That fourth line is a toss-up for Maddie right now.
Yeah,
but I got another question
it's
here.
Good for us. It's good for you and me because then we have something to hate on, and apparently that's what we need to have our credibility. I'm sorry, I needed to get that off my chest.
Yeah, I mean, if we really want to have controversial statements right here, if we're comparing all the boots from Nike and Adi right now, the Nemesis is the distant last place.
Oh yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Question from Waylon Urig. I think that's how you say that.
Solid.
Do you think Nike is ditching Flywire and Quad Fit? Now that the Phantom Venom is gone, there's no silos with Flywire, and surely Nike won't include Quad Fit on the Legend 9.
Well, obviously it seems they are. I think we're going to see... I have no idea what the Legend 9 is going to be, but I can imagine that unless they come up with something better, they might just stick with it. But I can imagine they're going to come up with something better. I was a little surprised that the GT doesn't have any of it, because it's suffering a little bit for me, and at least when you have a slim foot in terms of the lockdown. And why not at least put some sort of high tenacity yarn structure or Brio cables, whatever, just to give it a little bit. But hey, it's also that free sensation people love from the Hypervenom. But yeah, it seems like they've got something else cooking. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I think Flywire, while effective, it does create like specific points of pressure on your foot because it is ultimately just a thin cable. So
exactly.
It seems like Nike, and we saw this with Quad Fit, we see this with the high tenacity yarns and the Mercurial, they're trying to incorporate structure that's kind of seamless within the upper, that's there, but you don't necessarily see it as a physical element. So that seems to be the evolution of knit anyways.
Would you have taken Quad Fit in the GTs if you could?
I'd be curious to try one with it. I think quad fit was a really cool idea. My issue with quad fit is that it creates it's another layer.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never been a big fan of layering uppers,
and that's what they didn't want to do with the GT. So it makes sense.
Yeah, GT could have benefited from some added structure for sure, but I don't think it was entirely necessary.
No, I agree.
Here's an observation from Isal Villanueva, and I've seen this quite a few times, especially on my channel. He just observed, Josh got fluffy, as if to imply that I got fat. And I realize that there's been like a mass quarantine happening across the world and stuff, but like I'm pretty on top of like my weight and stuff like that. I have not gained or lost any weight in like the last 6 months. So how I can go from like pretty fat to pretty fit and like from video to video, it's only possible on the internet.
See what you're not seeing now is that Josh is smiling. But inside the man is raging. And what's going to happen next is that he's going to go down and simply deadlift double what he's usually doing in pure rage. Nah, man. I was just wondering, what on earth, did you get bitten by the cat in the face or something? Like what happened?
Nope, that's just woke up one day, red dot. Oh, shit. Just really unfortunate placement.
Well, at least you're not losing your hair, so you should be happy about that. That's the way it goes.
Final question from Harry Narayanan. Man, I make fun of you for the names. You're much better at pronouncing the names than I am.
Yeah, we got to work on that.
Will we ever get to see a regular tongue on football boots? Those one-piece uppers are so hard to get on feet.
I would hazard a guess and say no, they're not going to come back.
Yeah, it's funny. I think.
I mean, if we talk regular tongue, I don't think
it has to do with fit or feel or anything like that. Obviously, Mizuno with the Rebula Cup. You're right, Jay. They did bring it back. It's viewed as an old school element, and I think that the reason why we won't see it come back is because I think that when you add a standalone tongue, it makes the boot look less technical. And I think that's what's more important than anything about the football boot industry right now is if you can't make a football boot that people perceive to be technical and just look cool in general, they're not going to buy it. And when you have a standalone tongue, it just having the seams, having the creases, it doesn't look as modern.
I agree. It doesn't look as streamlined. So no, I think we're going to see less U-throats as time goes by.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I've had this conversation quite a few times over the last couple of days because there's been so many new releases. I think that a one-piece upper or at least a non-detached tongue is probably the best way to make a football boot given the current crop of technologies that brands have access to.
I agree.
Why have overlapping materials if you don't need them?
Exactly. And I'm not sure I agree, at least not for me. They're not super difficult to put on anymore. Maybe
they've gotten better in that regard, for sure.
Definitely. But guys, that was episode number 76 of the Boot Nerds podcast with a ton of releases, basically a full season worth of releases. It was a long one. Thanks for sticking by us. I guess if you're watching Josh's videos, you're used to like marathon videos. But thanks for sticking by us. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section right down below. We're going to get back to you in the next episode. If you want to call us out, call us fanboys or whatever, let us know what you think on all this stuff we talked about. Is really interesting and we can have a good discussion. It's all going down in the comment section right down below. Of course, don't forget to go subscribe to the best football podcast in the world by clicking the white bubble in the middle of the screen and go follow our separate channels by clicking the bubbles close to our faces. And with that said, guys, we're signing off. I'm JayMike and I approve this message.
Thanks for watching.
And now I got to run to football. See you later, guys.